Hey everyone, it's time for Cinar's Movie Reviews. I'm Cindy. I am your reviewer for Cinar's Movie Reviews, and tonight I have a movie review for you. Tonight I'm going to be discussing the movie Manchester by the Sea, starring Casey Affleck. As far as who this movie is appropriate for, I am going to give it a 1, meaning that it is for an adult audience. The Motion Picture Association of America has rated this movie R, and I am going to agree with them. The subject matter in this film is a little bit deep, and there is a lot of F-bombs throughout the movie, so it may not be appropriate for younger children, but it is appropriate for older children, 17 and up, and adults. A synopsis about this movie, just so you know what it's about. Basically, Casey Affleck's character is a man who has suffered his fair share of tragedy throughout his life, and it has formed him into a shell of a human being. And all of a sudden, he gets a phone call one day that his brother has passed away. And he now has to go back to his hometown where he suffered a lot of this misfortune and deal with making his brother's final arrangements and learning that his brother has made him responsible for his nephew's guardianship. So that is basically the storyline of this film. There's a lot of other things that go on in the film that I'm not going to talk to you about because I don't want to give them away, that help form the character that you're seeing in the film. But that is basically what happens in the movie. As far as my rating for this film, I'm going to give it 4 clapboards, and I'm going to give you that rating based on my 3 criteria. Did it hold my interest? Is it plausible? And how was the acting? The first criteria, did it hold my interest? This movie held my interest in a weird way. I wasn't riveted to the screen, but I felt so bad for the main character. Like, I felt for him so much that I wanted to watch what was happening in this movie. And I had high hopes for him in this movie. And watching him go through everything he's gone through kept me interested in the story. So, yes, it captured my attention. If I do have to say that there were a few detractors, one thing that I did not like throughout this movie, and there was a lot of it, was there was a lot of very dramatic music played in pieces. Now, I know music does do a lot for movies, but the way that the music was positioned in this film reminded me of like one of those French melodramas, where the mime is in love with the girl, and you hear the really dramatic music every time he sees her. That's sort of what it reminded me of here. I think that the music would have been more appropriate where it was placed if it was softer, but it was very loud and almost overpowering in certain sections of the film. Also, it was an ending where it's one of those endings where it doesn't really tie up anything. It just kind of leaves everything out in the open, and it's up to you to kind of draw your own conclusions. So that was another thing for me that I really don't like endings like that. I don't want everything wrapped up in a little bow, but a little bit more closure would have been nice for me. Excuse me. Second criteria, is it plausible? I think that if anybody suffered the way that this person in this movie suffered, they would be very much like him. People can relate to the fact that losing someone dear is difficult, and losing someone dear and then having responsibility, excuse me, thrust upon you, such as being a guardian for a child, is huge. So yes, I believe it's very plausible. And as far as the acting goes, I think the acting was great. I really do think that Casey Affleck did a great job with this character. You know, he was weird, and Casey Affleck played that really well, but he was weird for a reason. It wasn't just that he was a weird guy. So I think Casey Affleck brought that to this character. The young man who played the nephew was very good as well. So overall, I think that it was well acted. So I'm giving it a 4 clapboards. I'm not going to give it a 5 just because the subject matter is a little heavy and it was a little weird. It was a little bit of a weird relationship between the viewer and the movie. But overall, I think it is definitely worth a watch. I'm going to agree with the critics on this one. Sometimes I don't always see eye to eye with the mainstream critics, but for this one, it's definitely worth a watch. I will warn you, it is kind of heavy, so if you're looking for the feel-good movie, this isn't it. But it is something that is thought-provoking, and it's definitely worth your time to see it. So again, that is Manchester by the Sea, and that is my review of Manchester by the Sea. I am going to be signing off now, and I will have another movie review for you tomorrow. Till then, have a good night.